The bow's looking pretty good now. I've got it to a reasonable brace for a primitive, not maybe as high as a English longbow. The tiller was a whisker out still, and it probably is a little stiff in the upper limb now, but I don't want to keep adjusting it. It's a matter of check the draw weight, exercise it a bit, give it a chance to settle rather than keep trying to chase getting it exactly right without letting it settle. I've rounded the edges a bit and the corners. Haven't cleaned up the back particularly. It's starting to look good. Just rounded around the grip a little. And something I do, I hang it up on a nail and peer down the string line like that. I don't know if it's even relevant. I mean, it's letting the weight of the bow. So I suppose it's checking the line against how the mass of the bow sits, if you see what I mean. Assuming the mass of the bow is where it's going to balance. It's just something I do. It's just another way of trying to judge the string line. So I'll get it on the tiller and start exercising it a bit. But it's been strung like that for probably half an hour by now. Yeah, you can probably see that lower limb is, that lower limb showing is very weak now. Well, it's not that bad. Yeah, upper limb stiff. So just having been sitting there braced for a while, it's settled a bit. Now, it's not drastic, but she's certainly looking weak here. So it's funny how this bow, it's just, the tiller's just shifted back and forth like a fiddler's elbow. I think I've got enough draw weight to play with still, but I'm going to have to ease off this limb. Just trying to ease off this upper limb to get it in balance. I've taken more off here, you can see it's a bit paler, so I'm extending the limb back a little bit into the fade, lengthening the limb, and I've taken quite a bit off this edge where the bow was wider on this limb than the other, and it's getting there, it's looking better, it's feeling like it's almost back to full draw. So we'll have another look on the tiller shortly. I was just thinking, some of you must think I'm a bit of an obsessive compulsive nutter with this, but sometimes you have to focus on the problems. But I just thought I'd show you some of the good stuff as well. Look, we've got a lovely nice even reflex still. Not too much, just a nice hint, and it's coming on. So we'll get it back on the tiller. But the thing is, if you don't pay attention to the problems, yes, it was. I could have just left it. I could have strung it. Could have shot it. It was a bow. But with that imbalance and the lower limb being a bit weak, it was never going to get better. That lower limb would probably creep worse and worse and worse. And some of it only shows up when you get to full brace. I mean, that's why you approach it slowly. And there was one on Facebook the other day, a beginner saying, "Oh, I made a bow, it broke as soon as I tried to string it." I thought, well, you tried to string it, didn't you? You don't want to get around stringing bows. No, you've got to tease them back slowly. Make sure they're even before getting it to full brace. Then when it's full brace, you tease it back slowly. It's all, yeah, like I keep banging on, successive approximation. Slow and steady wins the day. Yeah, I mean, I could have got this done as a workable bow a lot quicker, but it's been an interesting journey showing all the problems. I mean, it still isn't back to full draw, although I pulled it standing in front of the patio door so I could see my reflection. And I reckon I pulled it, yeah, I don't know, probably 25, 26 inches maybe. So I know I'm close, and I could feel it was suddenly getting hard to draw. Now some people will say, oh, I could feel the bow stacking. No, it wasn't the bow stacking, it was me stacking. It was a bit heavy for me, and also my bottle was going. But enough chit chat. But once I've got it basically, you know, back to a decent draw weight, decent draw length, I'll do the horn knocks and I'll show some of the finishing and what have you. I had someone asking about the use of a cabinet scraper. How do you use a straight edge cabinet scraper on a curved surface? Well, I'll show some of that later on. Yeah, I've been going back and forth rather like a fiddler's elbow with this, but there's no prizes for doing it quick, and there's no prizes for getting it wrong. Yeah, we're looking better. I think it's certainly looking more even. I think the right's still perhaps slightly stiff. Well, there's 50. Yeah, 50 at 23 and a half. So yeah, so 50 at 23 and a half from a full brace. We are looking pretty good. Just out of interest, if we go at some random distance from the centre line and measure, well, do you go from where it's being supported, or do you go from the centre of the grip? It's like all these things, it's hard to be exact. 1, 4, 5, or 5 3/4 in imperial. Ooh, whisker under 5 3/4 there. So this is still a tiny bit stiffer. You'd expect this distance to be a whisker less than that, which agrees with what we could see, but sometimes it's just nice to check. But we're certainly at the fiddling and fettling stages. Just on this limb, if I just take a bit more off the width, just to make it match that a bit better, be a bit prettier. Chamfer the corners a little bit more. I think she is a bit stiff here still, maybe take a bit more off there. Pretty much leave this limb alone. It looks like it's working hard here, but I suspect it's this discoloration. The other thing to look at on the video is this reflex, this little bit of reflex, is that pulling out as it draws? I think I was, what, 23 inches? So we're looking at, say, to get to 27, 1, 2, 3, another 4 inches, but 4 inches of draw is only about 1 1/4 of tip movement. So you're looking at very little now. You're looking at, you know, the fine stages. It'd be easy for you, oh, I'm fed up with this limb's weak, that limb's weak, back and forth like a fiddler's elbow. Let's get the angle grinder out. No, you've got to really start slowing down. Just little bits of fiddling around here can make a difference. Where the fade is, you're quite chunky here. So if you're struggling to get a limb weak and you don't want to take any off the heat treating, you don't want to make it narrower, you can just nibble away there a little bit. Just ease it off there and you're just giving it a bit more length to flex. Again, if this one's a bit too stiff and oh, I can't get it, I could always lose 1/2 inch off this tip. Yeah, there's always stuff you can do, but you can see we're getting very close now. We're probably time to put horn knocks on, narrow the tips, and really start working it as a bow. Very close.